Uh, hmm. So yeah, I found the message that just sent me. Yeah, I kind of forgot that this happened. What if there's any way that I can reverse image search this somehow? Or if Google can even reverse image search this in the first place. Why am I... Hold on, dogs. See, I had to start this a bit later than I usually do because I was in the middle of watching a game show. And yep, I'm trying to reverse image search it to see if I can find the original, but all I can find is Garten of Banban. And it's not even official Garten of Banban, it's what looks like a fan-made character. At least I think that's Garten of Banban. What is that? I think it's Oh my God. Google's AI overview thought that this was so trash that it thinks it's from Regretivator. It doesn't recognize that this is a Pokemon thing. But really, I want to know what this exact thing is from. Yeah, it's probably buried in DeviantArt somewhere. I could probably. I wonder if that one character is supposed to be an It's supposed to be an Oshawott, but there's like a bunch of teams with Oshawotts. If I try to search it up on the Pichu team, Pichu rank, probably get like lots of results. Oh, wow, 19. All right, then this won't be too bad to search through. Okay, it's for sure not them. It would definitely, hmm, that could be it. Wait, maybe it's like further on down the list because, okay, no, it's not them, definitely not them. Not them either. Okay, and I can't even tell if I'm searching the same ones or not. God, there's so many that are just not available anymore, and it feels like I'm doing the. No, it's definitely not this one. This one has a different style. The other dog's about to be put in bed. Once the dogs are put into bed, then I will start because I don't want them running around barking while I'm trying to read and focus. And I'm not having any luck finding this particular one. No, that's a different style completely. Yeah, I miss this style. Even if it looks a bit amateurish, it's got that old internet style. It's a lot better than what kids on DeviantArt are doing nowadays. Okay, this should be the last three. Um, no, it wouldn't be like this. Nope. Nope. Okay, so it must be one of those that had the 404 error on them because I don't think I know of I don't think I've ever seen anyone in the applications who had the art style of the circle and line tools in MS Paint. Hold on. I guess I'll have to put the dog to bed myself. Alright, Charlie, come on. Come on. Something to get. Oop. Okay. Is there like an earlier save of this? Because I don't like how this tries to put me into a new link. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it has been saved on the Wayback Machine. Like Archive MD is fine. This is the earliest that I could find it. And looks like someone did say something. I want to say something to him, but I don't want to be mean because this kid is probably 10. I don't think this link works because it relies on internet stuff. Also, hey, it's that Zora from the Flash that we'll be getting to sometime soon. And that's also the Cofagrigus, also from that same Flash, I believe. Yeah, I still wish I could find the origins of this. Anyway, I've been putting it off long enough. Uh, welcome to Dave. Welcome to wait, hold on. This needs the right picture. Eh. Give it up for day 15 of the PMD 15th anniversary. What was it? I was doing, yeah, anniversary streams. God, I forgot this was supposed to be about the entire anniversary as a whole and not just 15 days of me reading the fanfic, and that there's supposed to be more after I finished reading this. But God, it has been driving me insane trying to read all of this. Alright, third time I have to restart the song, but start with a short one, of course, and it has to do with Zaru. As we watched that wretched Sableye pass out of Castle Draclugia, a couple of thoughts come to my mind. What a sorry sight that was. Let's follow him. You know, he's a lot older than most people would guess. If I had to venture one, I'd say both of them are about the same age. Wait, actually, since this is from the perspective of Zaru herself, I think I should probably give her a voice. Maybe somewhat close to the voice that Glip gave her in the April Fool's Flash. Also, yes, authors, Marl Kitty. If I had to venture one, I'd say both of them are about the same age. Granted, one of them does actually age more slowly than the other, or used to, but that's not my point. All I care about are numbers right now, and those are probably on par with each other. If you were to ask me, I wouldn't be able to come up with a convincing reason as to why I mentioned their ages at all, honestly. I just thought it was an interesting piece of information. Make of that as you make of that of you make of make of it what you will. That was definitely a sentence that had to be spoken. They have other things in common besides their age, I think. I'm not really going to tell you what these things are, because as of right now, they'd just be rumors. Rumors are never a good thing to encourage or create, as one merchant guild leader found out not too long ago. You might not notice unless you were paying attention, but she actually does have feelings. A lot of them, in fact. You're most likely a simple paying customer, so she has no real need to show herself as anything but a merchant. I wish I could have been a bit closer to that conversation, but alas, vampires don't get along with our type too well. They say we interfere with their everything, really. Our inherent natures tend to clash no matter what we do, so we must respectfully agree to go our own ways. That's going a bit off track though, my apologies. Anyway, any closer and she may have detected me, and eavesdropping is a rather hard thing to explain away. You understand, right? I had to be satisfied with looking in through a window, even if the view it offered was rather pitiful. I almost lost him while writing this. I really should pay better attention to the outside world more, but that really isn't my forte. My thing, if you will. There I go again, actually. Time to catch up to him. Not too close, though, of course. I don't do this, you know. Oh, don't get me wrong. I meant to say I don't normally follow him. You'd have to be a bit touched in the head to think stalking him a good idea. At least, that used to be the requirement. He's changed a bit over the years. For the better, I believe, but who am I to judge? I've only been watching him for decades. Well, not him specifically. He's quite unique and intriguing, yes, but I am aware of the dangers of tunnel vision. Best to keep an eye on everything you can, lest you be caught off guard. While he is generally intriguing, that is not the case tonight. As we speak, you and I, he appears to be wandering around about the village. I wouldn't quite say he was looking for something, although I could understand how someone could make that assumption. If I'm completely wrong and he is indeed on the hunt, I don't believe he knows what he's looking for. That last bit can be said with confidence only because he does this nearly every night. I know that if I had been searching for as long as he has been, I would have found whatever it was long ago, I assure you. Would you like to know the funny part? He's actually the most talkative during this time of night, yet every Pokemon runs when they spot him. Well, that's not quite true. I've talked to him before, but only after he caught me doing the very stalking I'm currently engaged in. He didn't even mind that I was spying on him, which was a relief. Don't even ask me why I was doing it. Strange fellow indeed. We ended up talking for quite some time, about many things. I'm currently writing a book about some of them, which I'm sure will be finished in the near future. I'll leave him be, as I should start my search before it gets too late. Unlike him, I know what I'm looking for. Unfortunate, vulnerable Pokemon. They're the easiest prey to catch, you know. Our narrator's search for a suitable Pokemon has proven to be a success, and in a rather short amount of time. That isn't really a surprise. Sorbet's rampage has left many homeless. Suitable living conditions are being offered free of charge at Merlot's castle, but understandably not all Pokemon are comfortable with being near her. Some have chosen to rebuild their old homes, and some have chosen to brave the wilderness of the woods outside of Tau Village. The latter are usually the ones found out by our narrator. Tonight's catch seemed to be a Dratini. Oh shoot. That's not Zaru speaking, that is Callahan. He quickly called out to catch her attention, but not before making sure no one was around to interfere. Okay, well now that I know that it's Callahan doing this, Okay, so I'm gonna have to try a new voice, and it's going to be an interesting voice. Young miss, are you quite alright? There's only one reason I chose that specific voice. The sudden appearance of a predator in the middle of the night would normally shock most Pokemon, and this Dratini was no exception. She had initially thought her new house, which was actually just a crudely constructed tent made of rocks and branches, they had no limbs, you know, would serve her well as a temporary shelter, but at this point in time, it felt like a cage with only one way out, forward. Forward, the direction in which the predator was located. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to live under Merlot's house. Mansion. Thing. Gotta sound confident. Maybe he'll leave. Gathering up what little resolve she had, she demonstrated just how confident she truly was. I am fine, thank you. She hoped that he would accept this response and go on his merry way, but there was no such luck tonight. She was cold and hungry, and this was obvious to him. He stepped forward, and soon enough, he was too close for her to flee. He had taken that opportunity away while she, naively, took the time to respond to him. She felt a bit angry at her own foolishness. Then came a rather grim realization. He's done this before. That thought didn't do much to reassure her. She accidentally looked into his eyes and became filled with indecision. Should she fight him? Try to flee? The answer to both of these questions was no. Fighting would only prolong the inevitable, and fleeing would be an exercise in futility. He had 4 legs, she had none. Should she plead for him to spare her? No, again. That would only make her seem like an even easier target than she currently was. All that was left for her to do was... Miss, are you sure you're alright? You seem terrified. Is there anything I can do to help? His repeated question caused her to snap out of her trance. She realized she had been staring at him during that whole thought process, and he still managed to walk right up to her without her noticing. She had been too distracted by thinking of things she could do when she should have been paying attention to the threat in front of her. Why couldn't she focus on him? Help? He's not going to... What? Isn't he going to eat me? Goodness, no. Why would I want to do a thing like that? He recoiled in shock as he said this, but she wasn't sure if he was being completely serious. One could never tell with this type, and he did sound a bit sarcastic. She shied away from him, further sliding back into her small tent. Not in fear, but rather in embarrassment, upon realizing she had spoke those last thoughts out loud. Fear does things like that sometimes. She looked at him again, now not quite sure what to think. It's cold out tonight, isn't it? He inched a bit closer, returning her stare with a cheerful look. She liked that look, for some reason. It is cold out, she thought. Normally it wouldn't bother her, but it did tonight. Maybe it was the scare she just went through. It almost sounds as if it will rain soon. A rather bad combination, wouldn't you agree? He moved a little closer. She didn't notice. She agreed. She wished she had her old house back, but wishing doesn't really make things happen. She would have gone with him right there and then, but the cry of a far-off hoot-hoot startled her, making her break his gaze and think about the danger she was in. What say you accompany me to my house, just for the night? It wouldn't sit right with me to know that someone as lovely as you will be sitting out here in the cold rain. I'll get a fire going, and I have plenty of extra bedding. I'll have a stew cooking as well. How about it? I'm sure my brother wouldn't mind. He smiled as he said this, and it was almost convincing. Maybe it was genuine, and she was just being paranoid. At any rate, it would be nice to sleep in a real bed again, and she was hungry. Maybe he was actually interested in the welfare of a stranger like her. Or maybe he wanted to finish her off where no one would see. She decided not to take that risk. I don't mean to offend, but I really am alright. I do thank you for your offer, really. I was just about to head to sleep. She hoped that he would take the hint. He didn't. You don't have to be so paranoid, you know. I would never dream of harming anyone. Especially not a beauty like you, my dear girl. Oh my god. I know this is supposed to be Callahan dialogue, but the fact that I'm saying this like Sans Undertale is just... I'm trying not to laugh so hard. He crouched down to eye level as he said this, and she caught his gaze again. Any doubts she had about him melted away, and she didn't care to wonder why. Maybe he wasn't so bad after all. It was very cold now, and she was very hungry, and it was starting to rain. She was having a hard time focusing on much of anything while looking at him, and the promise of a fire, a bed, and a stew was too much. She agreed to go with him. Oh. My god. So Callahan said that they've been watching them for decades? No, I think they were talking about, No, they're talking about Devonshire. Right. I was about to say. She couldn't remember the journey to his house. How long did it even take? She couldn't remember that either. Where was she? His house, supposedly. She didn't know where his house was, though. She wondered if she would be able to find her way back home in the morning. If morning ever came for her, that is. Huh. That is very interesting. It's like nobody has ever heard the concept of fuck off before. She hoped it would. Why did she come here in the first place? Her stomach growled, and she remembered why. She felt a little more at ease when she detected the scent of a soup cooking from somewhere in the back of his house. He wasn't lying about the food, at least. The door closed behind her, and she felt him brush against her as he walked by. His house wasn't that small, but the majority of space had been taken up by piles of books strewn about the floor. She spotted his bed, and it looked very inviting. Maybe she'd take a short nap while he tended to his soup. That sounded like a good idea. She was awakened by the sound of a bowl of soup being placed on a small wooden table in the middle of the room, and by the aroma it gave off. She was very hungry, and eager to find out if the taste lived up to her expectations. It did. He seemed pleased by her approval of the food, and let her finish before he decided to talk again. Tell me, would you happen to know of any stories? I'm a bit of a writer, and I'm always looking for more tales to put in my books. Another smile. She felt like she could talk to him about anything, and she didn't want to let him down. He did go through all this trouble for her, even though she didn't ask him to. Trouble is, the only real stories she knew of were childhood fairy tales. She had quite a few stories she made up herself, but she didn't know if those were quite what he was looking for. She told him anyway, and was pleased to discover that he enjoyed them. After a while, she ran out of stories to tell and energy to tell them with. The fear she felt had been replaced with gratitude, and she wondered why she ever doubted him in the first place. Why am I starting to feel like this is Glip and Marl? I know this is their characters, but it's kind of like in the same vein on how some Floorverse characters are just Glip, and you can obviously tell. The initial confrontation had frightened her, yes, but that was hardly his fault. Did she even know his name? No, she had neglected to ask him, although he did ask for hers. She would get his name in the morning, for right now, all she had on her mind was sleep. Settling down on the bed she had napped in earlier, she thanked him again and went out like a light. While he was mildly amused she had gone to sleep so quickly after getting into his bed, he was a bit disappointed she had run out of stories to tell him. She was exceedingly competent at telling stories, which was a delight. As a bonus, he wasn't familiar with any of the stories she told him, which was extremely rare. The notes he took would serve to help him remember them later, when he would start to compile them into a book for all to read. That would be done later, though. Right now, she was out of stories and fast asleep, and that was all that mattered. There would be no more stories from her, which made him a bit sad. Nothing left to do but that, though. He crept closer to the bed, taking great care to make sure he didn't wake her. She woke to the feeling of her tail being pulled. Hey, wake up! She didn't want to wake up. The bed she was in was warm. She yawned and turned over, hoping whoever it was would leave her alone. Hey, another pull. I need to leave soon. You should get up and have some of the leftover soup. Soup? Right, she had that last night, and it was pretty good. That Ninetales gave her some. The Ninetales? She got up in a flash when she realized she was not in her house, and was, most importantly, alone with that creepy fox. I knew you could do it. That wasn't so hard, right? He looked at her with a cheery expression as he said this, and she couldn't tell if he was making fun of her or just being sarcastic. Probably the latter. While certainly weird, he didn't appear to be malicious. Not as malicious as he was acting last night, at least. Besides, a bad heart couldn't cook good soup. Well, probably not. She just made that up. But it sounded correct, and that was all that mattered. Okay, Callahan, with that soup statement, I don't know, it's probably me overthinking, but it's like, when I was told about Marl and the IRC, and how he acted in the IRC, and how he would always just talk about cooking, and I did see for myself that there were times in which he just loved to talk about cooking. Yeah. So maybe that was just a part of Marl being put into Callahan, like maybe he was a good cook or something. Ugh. Had to take a drink. Anyway, she thwump. A paw landing on the top of her head broke her from her daydream, which was also about the same time she realized she was daydreaming. Bad habit. Shaking his paw off of her head, she intended to give him a piece of her mind for being so weird last night, but found she was unable to. It was those damned eyes of his. She couldn't seem to think of much when she looked at them, or do much. They were the reason she was convinced into following him to his house last night. She would have never agreed to such a thing in a normal state of mind. Yeah. As he tapped her again, he realized why she was having such a hard time not acting like a scarecrow. I forgot about that. It's been quite some time since I've had a guest over. Yep. It's the drink that I've always had when I've been doing these readings, except for that one time that I had sparkling water. He closed his eyes, and her head felt much clearer. That grin of his remained, though. Is this better? He began to hum to himself, slightly swaying back and forth. It was almost cute. Not cute enough to dissuade her from nearly shouting at him. Why did you have me come here? Furthermore, why in the world did you have to do whatever it is you did last night to get me to follow you? She put on her best annoyed face, and even though his eyes were closed, hoped he could feel the intensity of her stare. It's best that his eyes were closed, really. It's rather difficult for a Dratini to appear intimidating. They usually end up looking adorable. He stopped humming. I thought you knew. Didn't you stay up for the better part of the night to tell me your stories? Some of them were pretty good, and it would be a shame if they were never put into a book. He walked over to the fireplace at the far end of the room and extinguished it with his tails. The room immediately dimmed, but other than that, remained perfectly visible. The sun had already begun to rise and was letting a small amount of light in through the curtained windows. She looked around as he tended to the soup pot hanging above the remnants of the fire and realized he had a lot of books lying about. Could he have written all of them? Yes, he did. She remembered now. He told her he'd been a writer for quite some time? He didn't tell her a number. Come to think of it, he didn't tell her much of anything. His answer didn't make much sense either. Excuse me. How could he have known she had stories? She felt that he was being a bit deceitful, and that annoyed her. Oh. It's already sounding familiar to you. That's ridiculous! You expect me to believe you just follow the trail of a story with your nose to my home? Did you just magically know I could entertain you all night? He kept his grin, breaking it only to make a face as he tasted the leftover soup. I don't expect you to believe anything, but yes, I knew you had stories I haven't heard of yet, and I wanted to write them down. As for my methods, would you have come with me any other way? Be honest now. She shook her head, still angry. Of course not! Who would want to go with you? Do you have any idea how you came off? I thought you were going to eat me! His eyebrows raised at that remark. Why couldn't you have just left me alone? With his eyebrows lowering and grin fading, he appeared to consider her questions for a bit. He didn't give her an answer she wanted to hear. I guess I'll eat you, you know. This soup isn't nearly as good as I'd like it to be. She backed up a bit, startled. You're all alone in this room with me, and I don't believe you have any more stories to tell. He opened his eyes and started moving towards her, smiling, all teeth, and with a bright blue eye on his on his right pupil. She couldn't move or struggle. It was those eyes again, especially that bright blue one. As he drew closer, she figured at least her stories would live on. He didn't seem to be lying about writing them down into a book. She just wished she could have read it. She closed her eyes and waited for the inevitable. Then she heard laughter and opened her eyes. He was laying on the floor, laughing. Really? Was everything just a huge joke to him? Tears started to blur her vision. What is your problem? Do you have any idea just how? He stopped laughing and looked at her, but this time her thoughts remained clear. I didn't mean to make you cry. That line about you being eaten was too ridiculous. I couldn't resist. He seemed genuinely apologetic, or at least she thought so. She couldn't quite tell what he was thinking. He kept that infuriating, cheerful expression on at all times. Yep, I know exactly what you mean, I think. She sniffed, still angry. He seemed to consider her for a moment, then stood up and went back to the table that held the book. He opened it and gestured to her with his tails. Would you like to see your stories? I altered them slightly to make them a bit more substantial. I don't think I detracted too much from the original message, but you can be the judge if you'd like. Also, I think this deserves a different song. Let me go to the playlist. If I can remember what playlist starts with. Yeah. She got a bit less angry. She did want to see what became of the tale she told, but she approached the table hastily and scanned the pages, furrowing her brows at random intervals to give the... Wait, I think I was supposed to read that later. Or maybe I did, and I just don't remember. I'll probably just reread it again anyway, because I'm forgetful like that, and I want to make sure I read everything. I don't think it detracted too much from the original message, but you can be the judge if you like. She got a bit less angry. She did want to see what became of the tale she told, but she approached the table and hastily and scanned the pages, furrowing her brows at random intervals to give the illusion of comprehension as she looked at his handwriting. After a while, she ended up at blank pages of the book and realized that it wasn't done being written in. She wanted to read it when it was complete. Well, did I mangle the stories beyond all comprehension? Could you tell they were still yours? He got closer to her with each question until he was pressed up against her, his eyes full of hope. She didn't know how to say it any other way. I don't know how to read. Whatever light was in his eyes died out, and she could physically feel his disappointment. It seemed to branch out from him and hit her like a wave, and she was suddenly just as sad as he was. His grin was gone, and his cheerful expression now looked rather, well, not cheerful at all. I'm sorry to have kept you. He slumped down, head resting atop the book. If you head out the door and head south for a while, you'll eventually end up at your house. His tails briefly pointed in the direction she should head before falling back down to the ground. But I know a shortcut. The Sans references aren't going to stop. She felt a bit sorry for him. Even though she was scared half to death by him just a bit ago, he did give her a rather good meal, and a place to stay in return for doing something she enjoyed doing anyway. Plus, he was a writer, and she always loved the idea of being one. That was just a dream of hers, though, as she lacked the ability to read, or the ability to hold any kind of writing instrument, having no hands and all. The aura of depression coming from him was maddening, yes, but the silence was far worse coming from him. That's coming from him twice. She tried to get him to talk, or at least do something other than mope sadly on the table. Hey, someday, when I learn how to, I'll come back and read your books. One of his ears flicked, but he remained silent. I'll take you up on being a judge on how well you interpreted my stories, alright? No response. His ears flicked again, but she wasn't sure if that really meant anything. I'll be going now. Thank you for the soup, and thank you for writing my stories down. I've, well, always liked the idea of being a writer, but, you know, thanks. She was just about to head towards the door when she heard a snicker. She looked back. He was standing up, and he was wearing that stupid grin again. Was the depression just an act? He pulled on her tail, and his face took on a slightly sinister tone. Where do you think you're going to learn how to read? I've seen your house. It was a pile of sticks. You live nowhere near civilization. Do you expect me to wait forever to come back? Maybe I should eat you after all. He smiled again, but she knew better now. If you eat me, I'll never read your books, and you'll never know if you, mangle my stories beyond comprehension? You said I could be the judge, and I'm going to take you up on that offer. He seemed to consider a comeback, briefly. You have a good point. I will just have to wait until after I receive your judgment to eat you. Is that acceptable? She hoped he wasn't being serious, but given how many times he tricked her in the past few minutes... Sure, you should wait a bit longer than that, though. I'd like to read all of these books. I never actually read one. She looked around the room again, unable to count just how many of them lay scattered about. That may take some time, as you seem to have quite a bit of a stockpile here. No, wait, as you seem to have quite a bit stockpiled here. He laughed. You have no idea. This isn't all of them. I have a basement and an attic full of dusty old notes and journals, some even older than I am. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff about Zari that doesn't seem to add up. That last statement reminded her that she knew next to nothing about him. I'm putting on another Sand song. Okay, so that last statement reminded her that she knew next to nothing about him. Just how old is that anyway? You haven't told me a thing about yourself, other than how you like to write, and how you make bad jokes about wanting to eat me. What is your name? Actually, do you even know my name? Are we really just complete strangers? He shrugged. I wouldn't say complete strangers, as we did spend last night together. We even slept in the same bed. She blinked. Did you really? More laughter from him. I only have one bed. Did you think I was going to sleep on the floor? Anyway, as for your other questions, I don't know for sure how old I am, as it doesn't really matter to us. To me, at least. I also don't need your name to write your stories down. Although, now that you mention it, I should credit you for being the source. She couldn't hide her joy when she heard that last bit of info. Would you really? I mean, I've never had my name written down before, much less written down as a storyteller. He cocked his head to the side, obviously amused at how happy she was. Sure, tell you what, why don't I take the day off from work? I'll start teaching you how to read. I can't help you with your writing, you'll have to figure something out yourself. She would finally be taught how to read? Her day was turning out better than she could have hoped for. Granted, the bar was set pretty low, as she started the day hoping she could simply escape his house without getting turned into soup. He poked her, and she realized she was caught daydreaming again. By the way, what is a Dratini doing out here, so far away from the sea? Don't tell me you were blown here by that blizzard. She brushed his paw away again. No, I left the sea not too long ago. I wasn't really content with living there. You see, I love telling stories, and the other Pokemon there liked hearing them, but I was getting bored with just telling the stories. I wanted to read them as well, but we can't really have books in the water, so long story short, I decided to live on land. I figured I'd have a better chance of learning how to read here than back out there. She glared at him. Unless you were just kidding about teaching me how to read. He sniffed the air, seemingly ignoring that last part. That's why I was able to find you so easily last night. I was wondering why you smelled so strongly of stories. I consider myself lucky to find someone who knows even a single one that I haven't already heard of. Smelling like stories? Whatever, he was probably just being weird again. Weird and evasive. She pressed him again. Well, did you really mean what you said about teaching me how to read? Okay, one more Megalovania. Where is it? Here it is. Well, did you really mean what you said about teaching me how to read? Or do you intend to make me cry again? For a brief moment, she thought his composure broke, but she couldn't tell if it was just her imagination. I wouldn't dream of making someone cry over the prospect of learning. Heaven knows there are already so little Pokemon who willingly read. You're pretty much my find of the century, and I don't intend to let you leave here easily. She blushed. He seemed kind of nice when he wasn't tricking her, or scaring her half to death, or being weird, or dodging her questions. He was still doing that last one, which was slightly annoying. She was going to say something about it, but he spoke before she could. Before we get started, there's one thing I need from you. He said nothing more, instead choosing to look at her inquisitively. She simply stared at him for a few moments, wondering what he could want before finally realizing it. She told him her name, and he told her his. He was weird, but definitely not malevolent, and she could deal with that. They spent the day together. That is interesting. I don't know much about the Halloween hack besides where the besides what was his name? Varish. I forgot his name already. Damn it. Varric. That's what his name is. From Brandish, apparently. Huh. Yeah, I also can't wait for Chapter 5. I'm just wondering when that'll be. Wow, apparently this was released on the same day as... No, this was released on the same end date as the question. Oh, this. You know what? I want to do more with this because I have a lot more Megalovania songs. There was once a monk from the ocean whose stories caused quite a commotion. Right and read she could not, and so after some thought, to travel ashore was her notion. The waters were rough and hellacious, 'cause creatures right from the Cretaceous did fight and did clash, and then with a splash made getting to shore quite vexatious. She flew through the air as the thunder preceded her landing, a wonder. She shook off some sand and surveyed the land, at least she was not torn asunder. And then came the fox with a mission, to eat her was just a suspicion. She would be quite a haul, he detected it all, her talent and even ambition. She worked, and she learned with such passion. Her teacher with books could not ration. Was there anything more than these books that did bore? A tale with a punch in action. The one that she found was amazing. The pictures were good, but the phrasing was too hard for her. The fox did concur. He read it himself for praising. Oh, do I have to do this entire thing in Callahan's voice? I guess so. Also, why is this part and this part as well? Because this is backstory part. Fuck it, I guess I'm gonna have to do the Sans voice for the entire thing. Once upon a time, there were 3 wish granters who roamed the world, granting the wishes of any Pokemon who sought them out. It is who is all types of at once granted them a piece of its power, and when it is left to do other work, the 3 wish granters were left behind to fulfill the hopes and dreams of Pokemon the world over. For a while, all was well. Soon, however, the 3 became dissatisfied. The work was boring, it was hard, and, worst of all, had not given them the power to tell the truth in the hearts of others, so that the wishes they granted were often used for petty or evil deeds. That which heaved and quaked was first to become angry, and began to make trouble. That which roared and that which lit up the sky followed in his wake, and it was not long before their wishes granted became wishes much regretted. For the wishes were indeed made real as asked, but they were cruel and twisted visions of the Pokemon's desires. These wishes, granted in anger, are why the land to the west no longer grows, but that is a story for another night. Tonight, child, I will tell you about that which lit up the sky and the City of Lights. He brought trouble to the city and would not leave it alone. Though the Master of Lightning had protected it with its lights, its servant made it storm and thunder inside of its walls, and soon the Master became very angry. Every time he would try to catch that which lit up the sky, however, the Wish Granter would leap away in a bolt of lightning, laughing madly, and disappear within the storm. He would not be caught with speed and light alone. The Master of Lightning knew this, and so he thought. And after thinking for a while, he remembered that a great power had put his progenitor to rest. He asked aloud if this power was still around, and if so, could it help him now? It Is heard the question, and came to the Master of Lightning, asking what it was he needed. The Master told It Is about his City of Lights, and that which lit up the sky, and the troubles he was having. He wanted this troublemaker to leave. Oh my god. It was already well was already aware of the Wish Granter's rebellion, and the Pokemon of all types was much displeased. It kept this to itself, however, for was wise and saw in the Master's plight a chance to do much good for itself as well. I'm not done with the Megalovania remixes yet. I have one more. Just one more. Okay, so where was I? It kept this to itself, however, for was wise and saw in the Master's plight a chance to do much good for itself as well. Giving the Master of Lightning a strange item, told him that what he now held would hold the Wish Granter, but that he would have to figure out how to catch it himself, and that it was a great trickster, so he would have to be clever indeed to do it. The Master was all too aware, but thanked and it is left to do its work elsewhere. Oh my god, that is true. Taking the lamp back to his city, the Master of Lightning sat in thought for a very long time. He did not want to spend too long in thought, for his city was troubled greatly by this mischief maker, and this in turn troubled him. Nor did he want to think too little, however, for he feared that if he tried and failed, his gift from would be discovered and he would lose his chance. Eventually, he had an idea to create more ideas, and called a meeting in the City of Lights. With that which lit up the sky trapped in the lamp, the Master of Lightning called who thanked him for catching his rogue creation, and said that the Master, Now you just hold on! What happened during the meeting? Oh, about that, well, I think it may be in my basement, if you'd like to fetch it. Why can't you go get it? Well, I already know what happens during the meeting, you don't. Okay, I think I found it, I think. Finally navigated all your junk. Come on, tell me how it went! Bolt from the Blue spoke to the gathering of Pokemon. He asked the Pokemon, the living storm has troubled us, do you all not know it? They knew it and agreed. He asked the Pokemon, the living storm must come to an end, and we must put him to this end ourselves, for no one but us can save us. Do you all not know this? They knew this, and they agreed. He told the Pokemon, I have chased the living storm for much time now, and I grow weary of being alone in this game. I must ask you, who of you will help me? No Pokemon did offer their help, and Bolt from the Blue was angry. He did not want to save them then, although he had the kettle from Do you all expect to be saved without lifting a finger? Do you all expect life to be handed to you with no challenge, no effort? Do you all expect everything in return for nothing? I have given you all everything you have today, and none of you offer to help me protect it. The Pokemon knew this and were ashamed. Bolt from the Blue was their master, and he was just and good, and no Pokemon feared him. But the living storm was malevolent, and they had much to fear from him. The Bolt from the Blue spoke again. What will you all do when the living storm causes your homes to fall? Where will all of you go? I will not create a home again for the likes of ungrateful Pokemon. It is too much to bear. The Bolt from the Blue was about to leave, and leave for good, the Pokemon which made no offer to help, but a voice called out before he did, a small Raichu. Bolt from the Blue, forgive us, for we are small, and fear easily that which we do not understand. I shall help you, and together we will make a new city, one for both of us. Bolt from the Blue was appeased. Fear not, my child, for I have been granted a gift from and we may end the living storm, and he shall trouble us no longer. He looked at the Pokemon who did not offer their help, and they looked ashamed. You will all be safe today, for I am generous, but know that all of you together are more cowardly than this single Raichu, and I thought more. The Pokemon were ashamed. They could not bear to see Bolt from the Blue and the lone Raichu go against the living storm. They spoke to the Master. Bolt from the Blue, we are afraid and we are cowards, but we will have nowhere else to go should the living storm ends our city. We will help. Bolt from the Blue was pleased that we will make a trap for the living storm. You will proclaim that I have left you all in anger, and you will all wail and gnash your teeth. For it must be a grand show, a show that convinces the living storm that it is true and I am gone. When he enters our city, you must crown him as your true master and king, and offer yourselves to him, and he must be pleased. You will praise him and pay him tributes, and one tribute will be what has given to me, fashioned into a crown for a king. The Pokemon were frightened at this plan, but Bolt from the Blue was their master, and he was true and good, and would never cause harm to them, not in 1,000 years. They bid him farewell and wished him much luck on his journey away from them, for the living storm would know if their bolt from the blue was close, so he must leave them for a while. The master's plan worked, for after a while the living storm came to them again, as he always did, to ruin their city and harm the Pokemon. The Pokemon cried out, "Our master has left us in anger, for we would not help him when he needed us." The living storm was pleased and offered to be their king, and in return he would no longer cause them harm, and falsely promised them to grant their wishes. The Pokemon rejoiced. "We have a master again, hail to him! We shall pay you tribute, our king, for you will surely be just and good, and better in all ways from our old master who abandoned us." The living storm was proclaimed ruler of the City of Lights, and was fooled by the admiration of all the Pokemon in the city. He accepted their tributes greedily, not caring what they were, for he was their master. Much tribute was given to and enjoyed by the living storm, and the Pokemon laid at his feet a crown as their final offering, for a king without a crown is hardly a king at all, they said. He placed the crown upon his head and was drawn into it at once, and was trapped forever, for it was fashioned from the gift that it gave their true master. Jesus Christ. The Pokemon were happy, and much celebration was had, and their bolts from the blue returned, and all was good again. With that which lit up the sky trapped in the lamp, the Master of Lightning called It Is, who thanked him for catching his rogue creation, and said that the Master could have something that he desired, a wish. The Master asked what would become of the wish granter, but It Is ignored him. The Master asked again, for he wanted to use that which lit up the sky's power to keep his city generating even more electricity, to fill his city of lights with even more light. It Is said nothing, however, for he knew that wasn't the Master's wish. Finally, the Master admitted he was having trouble in his quest to create life out of light. Everything he tried came to nothing, and he had been trying for a very long time. If he could find that first light, that inspiration, he would be very pleased. He knew it was unlikely, but he asked if It Is could give him enlightenment, and help him create the first life out of light. It Is asked the Master of Lightning if he would share a piece of his power, and the Master, surprised, said that yes, if it would help. It Is took the power, and a pillar was formed, there in the center of the City of Lights, made in the likeness of the Master himself. The lamp was gone. At first, the Master of Lightning was very alarmed, but It Is told him that the statue would be a source of light and energy for the city, and suddenly the feeling of creativity and inspiration touched the Master. Suddenly, he felt he knew how to bring life to his lights. Excusing himself, he left, leaving It Is behind in his haste. And that very night, child, the Master of Lightning made the first life out of light, the first Porygon. Well, Frisk, how did you think of that story? You would not believe where I found this. I found this in a timeline that was full of Pokemon. It was very old and ruined, mind you. But they did have a lot of literature. I think Alphys would be very pleased with this. I know anime is her thing. Alright. And now I finally have to put the Sans voice on rest for a second because we're back to normal story reading. A series of loud thuds on the door, jarring PK out of a peaceful sleep. Great. That was a first... that was a first sentence, alright? Also, author, Purple Kecleon. Actually, did that last story have an author? Yeah, Marl Kitty and, Railarat. That is a new name. She opened her eyes and stared straight ahead at her desk. Light was making its way in from the window, but not a whole lot. It was maybe 6 a.m.? Who the hell was bugging her this early? It was supposed to be a day she could sleep in. It wasn't like every other day. Besides, if there was any life that had come out in the middle of the night, it would surely have stopped by now since the security systems were supposed to be disabled at 6 a.m. Sorry, I could not go without making a FNAF reference from that. Another few thuds. PK, you promised you'd go today. You can't put this off any longer. Please, get ready and let's go, alright? PK? I already told him you'd be coming, spoke the peaceful sleep assailant. She groaned. She had forgotten, but it was coming back to her quickly. Just a sec! She croaked at the door. Her morning voice still caught in her throat. She definitely needed a cup of water. Her tongue felt dry and papery. It was kind of gross. No matter, she would be ready in a moment, and even if the thought of her chore for the day bored her to tears... even if the thought of her chore for the day bored her to tears... Yep. Now that the village was done being built, she was unable to find any more excuses to delay the inevitable. There were no more Pokemon doing grand tasks to really manage. It was all just a bunch of planting for that confused little fairy girl. Fuck, this was supposed to be written after the epilogue. I'll have to do the epilogue after this then. Well, at least that didn't require a whole lot of supervision anymore. It was giving PK a chance to recuperate from all of the long days and nights that a devastated village had brought with it. Unfortunately, because it didn't require a whole lot of supervision, Malt was apparently feeling more entitled to PK's time. This really wouldn't have been a problem, except she, well... PK, come on! I told everyone at the ranch we'd all eat breakfast together. They all eat really early if they still do it in the same time as before. You don't want to waste their cooking, do you? Come on! This managed to pull another groan out of PK. She slid out of the bed, finally, looking back at the sheets longingly, but for but a moment more, then stretched. First her tail, then her arms, up and down, left and right, B and A, start, and then did a split. It was important to remain limber and alert. She was even more conscious of this after a period of deep purpleness, as she liked to think of it. Black wasn't a very nice color, so she wouldn't think of herself as having been such. Very interesting choice of words there. In any case, she found stretching a nice way to become more aware of your body at the start of the day. I'm still thinking about that last statement. Could you not have phrased that in any more way? I feel like if there was a PMDE out of context account, that would have been the line, would have been one of the many lines to put up there. After this quick physical and mental wake up, she felt ready to go face Malt and see what he had stored in her. I'm not being able to read today. She wasn't sure she was sure she wouldn't like it. It was hard. She wanted to be positive. She really did, and that was no lie, but she rather disliked ranches. Stories of her father's ranch put an immensely grotesque and horrid impression in her mind of what such places were like. She was sure that if he had owned Tao Ranch instead of it having started off separately, well, that it would have been run in some similar way as to the ranch of his young adulthood. Even after she was well aware that Tao Ranch was simply not like that, she had avoided it without fail. She always took giant detours around it whenever the situation called for travel near it. It was just not somewhere she wanted to be. It would have been possible for her to do business with them at all had Malt not always visited the village. Her former partner had offered to go to the ranch in her stead, but she much preferred getting to see Malt face to face. It wasn't for lack of trusting Shroomsworth's judgment. She simply felt a desire to oversee everything that happened between the village and the ranch. You know, if it was me, I would also be like, it wasn't for... It's not because I don't trust Shroomsworth going out to see them. It's that I don't want him going out and getting hurt again for the 10th time. Oh my god! I know that exact line. It takes all colors to make a rainbow, except black. There's no black in a rainbow. Who really died that day? And who came back? My god, I need to watch that. I need to watch those again sometime. Those are funny. Especially that recent one about the, whenever Vinny learned about, Crypto Luigi. I guess this is going to be our break time. First, I gotta make sure that the, there we go.
You know, Luigi, the work isn't really coming in right now, so we gotta button up and save as much money as possible. I know you've been spending a lot of time in that VR stuff lately, but every coin counts, as Papa Mario used to say.
Yeah, virtual land all across the globe.
Luigi, go!
The next wave is digital, catch me on the way up. The glow up is visible, couple more.
Luigi.
Watch mine can go up, it's about to go nuts. It's about to go nuts.
Luigi, go!
I'm getting paid, making cash with Alice Earth. Alice Earth.
Oh my god. I forgot that was an entire bit for like that period of time. I wonder, would PK be the type to invest in crypto? Wait, would PK be the type to make NFTs and sell them? These are the important questions we have to ask right here. Would PK be the type to AI generate some bullshit to sell a product? Like those quote unquote realistic dogs? Yeah. Alright, enough of that crypto shit. Oh. Wait, Glip like generative AI at first? Huh. How very unexpected of an artist. Also, I kind of did see firsthand what she meant, because I saw what were those called? I saw things of like her character of the Floorverse characters on there. Oh, and there's also that one time on whenever this was back when like character AI was really popular, and I searched up the PMD cast just for fun, and there were so many characters on there, and they were all made by the same person too. I really wanted to DM them about it, to ask them why did you make PMDE characters and character AI? What was your motivation there? But I think they were also someone who had a diaper fetish, and I don't know if I'm comfortable talking to people. Let me see if I can find it. It's in my Tumblr archive somewhere because I do remember talking about it. And then I brought it up again sometime after that. Yeah. Yeah, I found it. I found it. My god. Wait, hold on. This isn't even the first post. I need to find the first post. It's somewhere on here. Y'all can take a look at that if you want. I just need to find that first post. It was 3 years ago. So, yeah. We got them all. We got side character, main character, character that was only seen in like one story, Lexi, minor character, main character got kicked out, Merlot, 2 versions of her, that being the present and past versions, very minor character, a 2 and 1 character, and then just one character by themselves. PK. 2 different versions of Royce for some reason. Villain character that got killed off. Hey, this is my husband. Yeah. Oh, and there's Syrup, and for some reason the entirety of Tau Village. I forgot about that. Just all of the engineers, for some reason. All of the ranchers. Tivoli, in case you wanted to talk to a rapist that wasn't, insert political topic here. Udon, Vertigo, yep. And then these 2 characters that I forgot even existed. Oh, another version of Shroomsworth made by, someone else. And then I tried to see if I could find anyone from Floorverse. All I did was just put the keyword Floorverse in the search. I did find someone. But then again, I knew very little about Floorverse 3 years ago. So after that, I went looking back. Because at the time, the search function did not show you the number of chats the characters had. So I opened up with this strong statement. Bro, I want to know who is rizzing up Mike's mom on character.ai. So yeah, 4,243 chats for a Skuntank who is created by someone with a vor fetish. And the second most popular one had been Udon because it's a dragon I made. Who wouldn't want that? Well, I got bad news for you, Sherlock. Merlot exists. And then, I think after that, in the number department, it was Shade, Lexi, Stunky, Antikonga, PK. And then I did more searching with actual Floorverse characters and such. And I actually did find more. Yep. What an interesting timeline we live in, where there's like fucking 4,000 chats for Pango Solvent for some reason. In fact, it has been a while since I checked up on him. I can check up on him again, since I forgot I was even signed in until recently. Oh my god! That would be true. Oh yeah, that's true! Why do you make... Okay, I guess it would make sense, because considering that story in particular, he did sound gay. But why'd you have to make a separate bot just to include that he was gay? Like, surely you couldn't have edited the character? Yeah, let me see if I can find the person who made those PMDE characters. Yep. I'm doing this on my phone because I don't want to subject y'all to the sites of character AI. Especially because you have to sign in now. And also because this guy does a lot of transformation, diaper stuff, you know. I'm not putting you all through that. Let me check Syrup. That was the most one with the most. So since the last time I checked on this, she now has 6,500 chats. And yeah, that is a surprise how this person did not make a Devonshire. They made every other character in the PMDE thing, but not Devonshire. Let me check Udon. How many messages? Udon has 2,000. Shade has 900. Lexi got the poor end of the stick. He only has 500. And the other two in this image, Maple and Antikonga. Auntie's in the 500s. Maple did not go up that much. But the one who got a staggering increase would have to be PK because she now has 1,593 chats. God, I wonder why. Maybe it's because it has sassy in the thing, and people like talking to sassy characters or something, I don't know. Yeah, I still want to know what this person was thinking with trying to bring the entirety of Tau Village into character AI. Oh, and that Tau Village bot has 1,200 messages. Why the fuck does anybody... What would draw people to want to RP in Tau Village? That place is a hellscape! Then again, here I am making fanfics about me wanting to go on a date with Shroomsworth. Okay, I think that's enough for... What is this now? The AI break? The downfall of the internet break? God, that would be true. I would also want to destroy Tau Village. Oh, yeah, Devonshire is definitely a Tumblr sexy man. I would also say that Shroomsworth is a Tumblr sexy man. He is my sexy man. Thank God data centers have been closing down. And I did hear about Sora shutting down too. Hallelujah. Okay, so I have lost completely where I was due to this AI break. Oh, but it was... Oh, it's... surprisingly... Well, fittingly enough, it was on the line... But that was enough of that. Yes, please, no more AI shit. She answered the door to her bedroom, and it had really only been 5 or so minutes, but Malt's expression still said that she took too long. Well, whatever. PK, you don't need anything, right? I mean, I know you don't, but I don't want you to make up an excuse to come back here again, and she cut Malt off, tired of him already. I don't. I mean, I won't. Need anything, that is. Let's just get this over with. Even if he was perfectly justified in thinking she would try to wriggle her way out of her obligation, she hated it regardless. They silently made their... Oh, excuse me. They silently made their way down the stairs leading to the main corridor and exited the hut. PK would have griped that no one competent was running the place, that they could be robbed, and so on and so on. But Malt had specifically secured a few of the teams PK trusted at all to run the main shop, and even the stall outside. She was certain he had handpicked only the teams on the very best of terms with her. This was agitating. She had been robbed of the only complaint she could think of. It seemed, unfortunately, that Malt had thought ahead quite a bit for this particular date. Yep. PK trailed slowly behind Malt as he made his way over the footbridge and to the ranch portion of the village. It was, in truth, a mile or so away from the village still, and that was pushing the limits of her comfort zone. As they got closer, her heart started to pick up the pace. She felt a little faint upon reaching the main entrance. A good look at the setup should have put her at ease, but it did not. Yeah. Malt tried to push back his thoughts for the duration of their trip, but it seemed he had enough of the silence. God, I can't read tonight. I guess it's because I've spent my entire day trying to shiny hunt Spritzy on that same server and having absolutely no fucking luck whatsoever, finding jack shit. And apparently also of whatever expression PK didn't realize she was making. Come on, you look like we just arrived at a torture camp or something. PK, you can't be grimacing like that the whole time. You'll make a really bad first impression on these guys. We're supposed to be a whole unit now, and you haven't even met a good 9/10 of the ranch populace. You need to... Yeah, save the spiel. I'll smile or whatever. She grinned. Mal cringed and shook his head. Well, so much for that. Yeah, no shinies. I found jack diddly squat. Also, I did try replacing the Roselli berry with Palmic berries, but I got more cutie fly spawns out of that. Also, that line Maul said implies that torture camps exist in this world, and I don't want to imagine what a torture camp in this world looks like. That's all. This is already giving me horrible thoughts. So let's see, where does a torture camp come from? Oh wow, I type in torture camp origin and the first thing I see is a bunch of World War II related stuff. No, no, no. I'm not putting that thought in my mind. That is awful. That is way too awful. I'm sure something like that did not exist in this world. Along the way to the first building, they passed several rows of tiny trees. PK recognized them as the berry saplings that they were. That was nice, at least. She even saw the payapa berry bushes she specifically requested. Even better. Past that, she saw a little pond with a few ducklet and psyduck lazily floating about. Did those guys do anything for the place? Were they workers? Maybe they provided eggs. She wasn't all too sure. Maybe they were freeloaders for all she knew. Hey look, Psyduck mentioned. It was exactly for that reason, for a lack of knowledge, that Malted continually urged PK to check on the ranch, meet its inhabitants. She really did know next to nothing about how it was run. Only the bare essentials had been gleaned from all of her business with Malt before they joined forces. It was probably a really lousy decision on her part, but it was a resolute decision for over a couple of years, nonetheless. It was looking to have been a poor decision on all accounts, though. Even if the ranch stressed her out for no real reason of its own, she was starting to really actually see that it was just a normal place where Pokemon lived and worked. The houses were mostly the Pokemon head motif, but there were some more practically shaped buildings, which she guessed held most of the supplies. The two merchants were making their way toward a plain brown and tan building, so there was no telling who or what lay inside. Maul pushed open the door, bringing about a little tinkle from the bell. Not trinkle. Wow, the bell pissed. PK followed suit. There was a long table, fully set with dishes and napkins and plain glasses, enough to seat a couple dozen Pokemon at least. She was sure there were more staff than that, but suppose they didn't all eat together. At first, it seemed that it was merely for show until PK actually took a good whiff. Someone was cooking. Now that she was fully inside and the door was shut, she heard sizzling coming from the other room. Moments after they had stepped in, a combustion had emerged from a far room. Oh, you guys made it a little early. I wasn't expecting you guys for another, I don't know, you're early anyway. Everyone will show up on time if you give them a few minutes, she said. She seemed genuinely cheerful and pleased to see them both. I hate to be rude, but I gotta get back to cooking. It's good to see you again, Malt, and to meet you, Miss PK, but you know how it is. These eggs can't cook themselves, she said with a laugh. She returned to what PK presumed was the kitchen. Well, why don't we sit down, Malt suggested. Everyone usually shows up right as the cooking's finished, so you can meet them as they enter. He took a seat closest to the entrance door, looking at PK expectantly. She ignored him for a brief moment further, choosing to look around at the austere decor of the place. I have never heard of that word before, austere. There was really not much to be seen at all in the plain white room. No pictures, no china, again implying that china exists in this world. Nothing that a normal dining room might contain. A sad thought overcame her. Why didn't the place have decoration? It should have. It's not like Sorbet personally had smashed the previous ranch and all of everyone's belongings up. Perhaps they had been robbed when they fled? She decided she would ask. Let me search up what austere means. Of living conditions or a way of life, having no comforts or luxuries, harsh or ascetic. Okay, well I don't think that fits the word. having an extremely plain and simple style or appearance, unadorned. Yeah, that seems more like it. Why is this place so, modestly decorated? Did they just not have the money, or, she asked, trailing off at the possibilities. Best to let Maul just answer. This? This is the same sort of room we used to eat together at in the previous place. We gotta like it that way here. With half-lidded eyes, he placed his elbow on the table and leaned forward a bit, propping his cheek up with his hoof. You'd have known that if you'd ever visited yourself, you know, he said flatly. This grated on her nerves. Maybe you guys were poor then too. It's not like I gave a crap about what your finances were. She spun around to face him. And where are all the suckers anyway? Why are we even here so early? I could have slept in longer and you just go and bring me here early. Great. She pulled out a chair suddenly with enough force to make it scrape loudly against the wood. She took her seat and imitated his semi-bored look, prop cheek and all. Malt rolled his eyes and was about to speak when PK's eyes moved to the door. Someone was about to come in. She could hear the commotion. Malt turned to look at their visitor as well. The door opened to reveal a Flygon with a great big ribbon around her neck, carrying a couple of giant eggs with tiny painted ribbons on the shells to match. For an instant, a speck in time, PK and his visitor locked eyes, leaving PK to feel a very drastic, very distinct pang of intense sadness. She had no idea if the Flygon felt anything in return, only catching the slightest twitch at her mouth. The strange encounter lasted for such a minute period of time that Malt completely missed the moment of silent grief felt by PK. Hey, Ruben, he greeted. You're obviously pleased to see her. You look well. Oh, Malt, she said, laughing. You always say that. I'll talk to you in a bit. Puzzle told me we needed these. They're special, you know. She told him before twirling off to the kitchen. Malt smiled sadly when she left. He turned to PK and whispered once he was sure Ruben was out of earshot. She's got some issues, but we don't really talk about those. Please be polite to her. Don't ask about her eggs if she says anything funny. She's really nice, though. This caused PK to feel a pit form in her stomach. For some reason, she couldn't imagine ever being very grumpy toward that particular Flygon. It was rare, but something she was sure was the absolute truth. It made her upset to think that Malt was telling her to not act up around someone she had already decided she liked and fell for, but she let it slide. She had one of those rare moments of understanding someone else's point of view, and knew Malt must have cared about Ruben as much as she suddenly decided that she did too. This made him a little less detestable, for the time anyway. PK was to have another timeless moment of recognition shortly afterward, causing her to all but forget about Ruben for the rest of the day. The door jingled once more. This time, two fruit-filled baskets suspended by two separate vines entered first. Then came their sole owner, a Meganium in a funny little white hat, adorned with a red flower and stripe, though flat and not the kind that PK wore around her belly. This fellow was quite pleased to see Malt, smiling in good cheer to accentuate this fact. He spoke with earnest happiness. Hey, really glad you could both make it this, he started, cutting off as his gaze switched to PK. He stared, mouth unable to finish the sentence it had started. Malt paused for a moment, giving him a chance to continue. He didn't. Iceberg? Something wrong? Malt was confused, trying to figure out what had so rapidly stolen the friendly gardener's attention. Malt followed Iceberg's vision to PK. It was then that Malt was overtaken by a bizarre sense that something was going on here that he just wasn't in on. He was staring back, mouth agape. Attention very once as stolen away. PK? He asked. There was enough to break her from her trance. What? She snapped. What do you want now, Malt? Nothing. You two know each other? He asked. Iceberg, normally a happy and open guy, suddenly gained an extremely timid posture. He seemed to have shrunk into himself. Malt wondered if something had gone wrong during one of the rare times Iceberg ventured to the village. Nope, she snorted. Don't got a clue who this guy is. He's got a dopey name for a grass Pokemon, though, don't you think? She closed her eyes and reclined, as if Iceberg wasn't there at all. Malt found it incredibly rude, and was already partially starting to regret having PK visit the ranch. He was rather tired of her running her mouth and no one saying a thing. Well, it's not like your own name is incredibly creative, he said dully. Pyapakiwi? Really? Shut up! Shut the hell up! Don't bring that up again, or I'll brand your ass! She said quite seriously. Malt wasn't sure if it was a bluff or not, then sighed in response. He turned to apologize to Iceberg, but instead found himself deciding perhaps he ought to ask if Iceberg was feeling well. The poor Meganium looked pale and faint, and even his knees had begun to wobble. What a sight he had become. Hey, what's going on? You alright, buddy? Iceberg turned to Malt. Faint recognition gleamed in Iceberg's eyes. He opened his mouth as if to voice whatever ghastly thought had overcome him, but thought better of it. He turned and left the building, and the door jingled shut. PK placed her feet on the table and reclined further, rocking the chair slowly on two legs. She finally opened her eyes to look at Malt again. Sounds like the guy pussied out of breakfast. Speaking of, when's it gonna be ready? Also, wow, that's the first time I've heard PK say that word. Thoroughly baffled at the whole experience, Malt was dumbfounded. He wanted to ask what the hell had just happened, but didn't really know how to go about that. He didn't at all know how to even address it. Perhaps it was nothing, and his mind made a connection where there had been none. Weirder things had happened, he guessed. In reality, Malt wasn't satisfied with knowing nothing, but his confusion was interrupted by yet another Pokemon entering the building. Puzzle had been kidding when she said Pokemon would start showing up. This time it was a great big bug. PK's first reaction was that she wanted to smash it, and she knew it was a pretty awful reaction to have toward employees. It was twice as big as she was, partially incurring that immediate response in her head. Oh, you're Clover, right? Malt asked. A droning voice answered, giving PK the creeps. Yes, you are Malt, correct? Ovaltine told us about you. The giant yellow thing turned to face PK. And you are... forgive us, we are not the best with names. Who are you again? Though her interest had been piqued for a second there, PK hardly wanted to talk, but found it inevitable. She was just going to have to deal for the time being. PK, you can just call me that. Just PK. She was sure disgust would crawl over her face if the thing kept talking to her. And then what? Would it take offense? Try to pull some hideous move? Her mind ran wild with thousands of disgusting bug-related horror scenarios before it spoke again. It is my pleasure to meet you both. I actually wanted to tell Puzzle a couple of things about the honey out back, so I will not be joining breakfast this morning. I believe my partner will be, though. Still, that almost echoing voice, like the voice of 1,000 Beedrill. The species dawned on her after she made the connection. More accurately, she was a Vespiquen, and was good at providing lots of honey, which was to say, lots of money. PK finally managed to recall that much. They were sort of a rare sight. You might see combees flying around, pollinating flowers, but one of these? They were usually hiding out in a big old tree somewhere, for good reason. They were creepy as hell, and not often met without a little hostility. No problem at all. We'll be here for a lot of the day, so I'm sure we can find some time to visit you while you work, Malt said. PK wished to groan in response to this, among other things, but Clover's mere presence was making PK extremely uneasy. She found herself remaining polite, if only because she was too bothered to respond. Clover swept past them and made her way into the kitchen. PK could still feel that incredibly thick presence from her spot in the dining room, and waited until the horrendously large bug had made its exit to exhale her relief. Oh, come on, she's not that bad, Malt attempted to assert. Bullshit, she's really freaky and you know it! PK crossed her arms, as if this posture would leave no room for debate. She's actually really nice from what I hear, and from what I've seen. There's no reason to be nervous, though I really do understand. But you just need to set your feelings aside for once, alright? I know you think they're super important and all, but you have to think about these things too sometimes. She can't help how she is, and you might be passing up knowing someone really nice just because of that. PK sighed, thoroughly bored with the direction Malt was taking the discussion. She feigned sleeping in her chair. Malt was not very impressed, but that hardly mattered to her. Malt couldn't possibly understand what it was like to resist the urge to smack down a natural enemy. Eventually, more of the farmhands started showing up and sitting around the table, and Malt introduced all the ones he knew to PK. There were only a couple that he hadn't met himself yet, only the newer recruits who had come in after the place had been rebuilt. It was mostly the old staff coming in for breakfast. Malt wondered when his sister might show up, and found it odd that Iceberg had not yet returned. Iceberg and Ovaltine usually showed up together though, so he surmised that they might both have had some chore to take care of first. Oh well, sometimes that was the case, and he'd just wait to see them until later if they failed to show. It wasn't It wasn't PK was going to up and leave during the breakfast or anything. It was a fine breakfast, even by PK standards. Puzzle cooked up a whole array of foods, catering to each of the specific tastes dining that morning. Berry syrups for pancakes, eggs cooked in a manner of ways, poached, over easy, scrambled, bread with honey and butter, big glass bottles of milk, among other things. It was delicious, and this was nice. It wasn't as fancy as some of the dinners she'd been out to recently, but it was still a quality experience. Unfortunately, some of the workers didn't show up for the meal. Ruben was cleaning up the kitchen the whole time, and Iceberg never returned. This was no matter, Malt said, as they would simply meet the rest out in the field. So he and PK excused themselves when they had finished eating and chatting, and went to survey the rest of the ranch. After the two visitors had left, Ruben poked her head in from the kitchen. Puzzle caught her goofy gaze. When did Ruben not wear such a thing? And went after her. I remember this long series of dreams I kept meaning to tell you about, but I would forget before I had the chance, Ruben stated excitedly. She reached the sink and began filling it with water from their newly installed tap, then looked back over her shoulders to assess Puzzle's expression. Puzzle brought in the last of the dishes and placed them neatly on the counter, hardly with a clink even. Oh, the ones you keep forgetting about the place? Or was that something else? Oh, this was, well, yeah, it was there, but it was different. This is different. These dreams feel like, different. Rima was clearly having problems expressing herself, but Puzzle was ever patient. Well, why don't you start off by telling me what was different? What made you remember them? Well, I remembered when I met PK. I mean, she made me remember. Or, seeing her made me remember is what I meant. Ruben seemed a bit anxious, but was always happy to share things with her best friend. Puzzle had a gentle way of coaxing Ruben to talk more and feel less nervous, so they made a very nice match. She was never too hard on Ruben, who'd been through much. How much? Well, she had lived in Prismatic Jungle for much of her life under the rule of Tivoli. She kept a big ribbon around her neck as proof she had survived it all. It was a harsh existence, and Ruben had endured stresses that many Pokemon in Tao wouldn't ever know. Puzzle knew, though, and that was enough. Most of Ruben's dreams were often implied to have taken place in the jungle, though she never called it such. Puzzle understood this. When you met PK, huh? She's a character, isn't she? Puzzle said, grinning. She started to sort the dishes that Ruben had already washed in the short span of time. Yeah, but, I mean, well, I looked in the lake, right? And I saw PK, Ruben declared, as if this would reveal anything to Puzzle. So, as your reflection? So you were her? Well, no, not really. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I looked like her, I think. And it was that place, but it wasn't now. It was some other time. Oh, did anything else happen? Ruben paused in the middle of washing a particularly syrupy plate and closed her eyes. Well, there's always snippets, and it always ends poorly. Actually, you know what? Ruben reopened her eyes and looked sidelong at Puzzle. Her expression turned unbearably tragic. I don't really feel like talking about my dreams anymore. It's alright, we don't have to if you wouldn't really like to. Puzzle gave a moment to Ruben to silently reflect before changing the topic. You know, everyone loved the eggs today. This worked in cheering up the forlorn Flygon in a jiffy. Did they? I'm so glad, so glad. I loved them so. I'm so glad they loved them too. This has got me wondering if there's anyone in Tao Village that has autism. I'm just curious. Oh. The day had barely made itself known, and already it was too long. For PK, anyway. She was tired of walking along the ranch, tuning out Malt's endless talks about the land and the plants and who worked where and what their names were. She hardly cared. She already had a lot of merchants to manage, and really, she had forgotten most of their names. She didn't want Malt to fill her head with more things she just didn't care about, so he was ignored as they trudged on through the fields. Her mind wandered. Didn't Malt have a sister? He mentioned something about that over breakfast. Were there more Miltank on the farm besides those two? She suspected no, but wouldn't have been surprised to find out she was wrong. It seemed like an awful lot of milk for one Pokemon to produce. But never mind that. What was her name again? Clover had mentioned it. Some weird word, obviously a foreign name. Ova something? Ovaline? Olivine? Oval? It was Ovaltine. This rang a dull bell in the back of her mind, and she realized it was the correct name. Huh. quick question. Is olivine a word? Yep, olivine is a word. It is a mineral. Huh. Okay. And over here, it looks like this is where the rest of them go when it's time to clean. Hey, Maul, where's your sister? Stables. Then what? Ovaltine? If I had to guess, she'd be near her place. Why? We haven't met her yet. Yeah. I figured we'd make our rounds there at the end. Why don't we go there now? PK's curiosity was getting the best of her. I don't really care about this other crap anyway. Up. Yeah, you missed quite a lot. You missed PK and Ruben possibly having some sort of memory thing with Prismatic Jungle. Huh. Yeah. Malt stopped in his tracks, causing PK to nearly bump into his backside. She thought he was going to get annoyed, or perhaps even angry with her, but to her surprise, he simply placed his hands at his hips and turned to smile down at her in good humor. He was so weird sometimes. Well, sure then, why not? It's been a while since I've actually spoken to her. He started to walk again, but once more abruptly paused in his tracks. This time PK actually did smash her face right into his back, causing her to stumble backwards and land square on her bottom. This time she wanted to get angry, but instead found herself laughing. Dumbass, watch where you're going! Malt was relieved to hear her yelling in a good-natured way. He thought perhaps she was getting over whatever her problem with the ranch had been, and that was good progress to him. Sorry, lady. I'll try to be more careful with this thing, he said, wriggling his rear. He reached down and helped her up. I just want to warn you right now, you probably won't like my sister very much. She's kind of a... well, she likes gossip and stuff. PK's tail quivered a bit. I don't care. I know how to not talk, she said, even as Malt's face turned incredulous. Believe it or not. You know how to not talk, huh? Really? I find that hard to believe. It shouldn't really be a problem. Her place is just over yonder, I think. I haven't seen her very much since the whole place was rebuilt, so I might be wrong. But, you know, I don't think I am, unless there's another Miltank-shaped house around here, he said. PK laughed at that, and partially at how absurd the houses like that really were. Is it me, or has Malta always been drawn to look cute? Oh, this part. They had mostly made their way back to the main path from the entrance, almost to Ovaltine's house, when a familiar sound made its way closer with every passing second. It was just outside the ranch. It wasn't something that either of them had wanted to hear, actually. Malt was immediately suspicious, and PK was hardly thrilled. She was finally getting into the groove of meeting Pokemon at the ranch, and then Twigs' carriage showed up. The same two stoic Zebstrika leading it along the course. He stopped right alongside them both, as they were certain he would. Hello, dear. I just thought I would personally pick up my milk today, and I get the pleasant surprise of seeing you here. What a coincidence, isn't it? PK was entirely unamused by Twigs' coincidental appearance. She didn't know how he found out where she was, but that hardly mattered. I don't think so, no. Why are you really here? Oh, darling, I've already told you why, but while we're both here, I was actually on my way from the village. You see, you and I had a little arrangement today. Did you forget? What? Had she really? No. Again, don't think so. Today's the day I meet everyone out here. Been planned for a while. Twigs placed a paw on the open window of his carriage, resting his chin right on top. It gave him a sleepily playful appearance. PK was sure he saw feline intelligence absolutely beaming behind those eyes, however. It does seem rather unfortunate that you forgot about our arrangement in favor of being here, around this lovely place. PK suspected he didn't really care about offending Malt. To tell the truth, she still didn't like the country, but found the inhabitants of the place mostly nice enough. Well, whatever you say, enjoy your milk. she managed to pull a smile from somewhere. Being at the ranch wasn't her favorite, but... It's a shame you can't join me, he continued, ignoring her dismissal. Today I had some very special presents prepared for you. And now he was trying to entice her with things, and it was, as much as she was ashamed to admit it, working. She liked things. She liked them quite a bit, actually, which had spurred a decision to even fight to become leader of the Tau merchants. She caught Malt's face from the side of her vision and saw that he was thoroughly unimpressed, clearly waiting for Pika to hurry up and send Twigs along. But she really wanted to see, and should have told Twigs to leave, but even more so wanted to find out what had been prepared for her. In order to make herself feel less like a horrendous tool by abandoning Malt, she didn't even look back at him as she slinked into the carriage. That made it easier to avoid the shame. Perhaps if PK had so much as glanced back, she might have changed her mind. Malt didn't immediately respond. When he got over disbelieving that a perfect escape for her had materialized, he could not help but sound a bit crossed. PK, what are you doing? We're not done here yet! I'll check it out all later, Malt, she answered. He didn't talk any further at her, for the carriage was already on its way out. They did not stop for milk. It was a long ride, but they made their way to Alomomola before it was too far into the afternoon. It wasn't filled with much talk at all. PK chose to take a nap shortly after leaving the ranch. It was part to avoid thinking about Malt, and part to pass the boredom. Twigs woke her not too long before they reached the city. He, too, had been taking a nap, but arose before she. This had become the custom when they traveled to and from the city. He had pulled her gently from her sleep by speaking softly next to her head. Today, we're going to do something a bit different. She was disoriented at first, but then remembrance hit her. Do what? She spoke slowly and tiredly. Where's the stuff for me? You'll see soon, darling. The scene. That was good enough for her. Maybe it'd be a really fine pastry, or it could even be a cake, or perhaps, well, it was probably best she didn't get her expectations up. It would be even better if they weren't set high to begin with. It was easiest to fully enjoy things that way, no hopes to be crushed if they didn't exist to begin with. Instead of getting out of the carriage as they reached the city's limits, they kept going. It did slow down considerably, though. PK expected them to stop, but they didn't. They kept traveling through the city, to the annoyance of pedestrians walking through the streets. Eventually, the pier was in sight. Not any pier, but the main one. The Merchant's Pier. Exceeding the Merchant's Hut of Tau in importance. PK had hoped another destination was in mind, but her hope was in vain. They stopped right in front of the pier, at the very end of the wooden walkway. Twigs didn't even ask the Zeb Striker to stop. It seemed that particular destination had been their goal from the beginning. PK reached for the handle. So, where are we going from here? This is it. I'll be out in a moment. PK shrugged. Okay, well then. She tentatively climbed out, expecting something. What? She was unsure, but this definitely broke the normal schedule their dates had taken on. It was a little thrilling. Their outings had become predictable up until that point. Strangely, a small crowd had started to mill about around the carriage. It made PK anxious. So many eyes looking in her direction. And then Twigs emerged, a tiny black box in his mouth, hanging by a silky black ribbon to match, clearly luxurious. Suddenly, dread and realization filled her to the brim. This was not at all the type of present she had expected, nor wanted, especially not with so many watching. Twigs sauntered up to her, willfully dismissing his audience, despite the fact that PK was certain he had arranged for them to gather at this time. Despite the fact that PK was certain he had arranged for them to gather at this time, and very carefully placed the box on the ground in front of her. He tugged off the ribbon, gently pulling one of the two tails, and then flipped up the lid with a flick of a claw. It confirmed PK's fears and suspicions of the situation. It was a pair of rings. One was plain and golden, one was ornate with multicolored gems lining the perimeter of the ring, one for every color of the rainbow, she guessed, and they were perhaps an inch in diameter each. Twigs lowered himself close to the ground. The audience's excited murmur was slowly fading in anticipation. PK found herself wanting to cry. She didn't actually succumb to tears, no, but the urge was there. The spotlight was absolutely not the place for her, and here she was, player in a little performance that she hardly wanted to be a part of. Great. Yeah, exactly. What was Glip thinking, then? I think that question can be said about everything. In her desire to leave the scene, she searched for 1,000 other topics to think about in that instant. Why here? Why are they stopped here? Why in front of everyone? And then it struck her that the location was very important indeed. It had been specifically chosen, there was no doubt. It was right at the entrance to the biggest pier, precisely where she had first met Twigs. This was where they were both standing. Every landmark around her was the same. This was really, truly that spot. Peaky would have given anything to just escape and crawl away. She heavily considered what might happen if she substituted out, but decided that wasn't something she cared to do in front of many attentive eyes. Besides, it kind of ruined the magic of the trick if someone was watching from every angle. Enough of that. She had almost been lost in her thoughts, but Twigs brought her back with dizzying speed when he spoke. She felt mildly ill. My darling, I think it's time, don't you? Hushed, yet energetic whisperings from the crowd. Would you do this for me? PK's throat was dry. She tried to say something, but it merely came out as a raspy cry. Twigs didn't notice. He spoke again. Will you marry me? There was a dead silence, an expected silence from the bunch encircling the two. Marriage? Why? Marriage was hardly suited to PK. Everywhere she had been, it was uncommon, mostly for the fact that it signaled an extreme commitment between two Pokemon. Commitment wasn't unusual, though. That wasn't the issue. It was that it heavily linked together two Pokemon as one unit. It was kind of like a brand, combining a couple into an entity. It was used a lot in business relationships as a tool to bring separate branches together out in Alomomola. The very idea sent a chill down her spine. It felt somewhat like she might lose her identity, so it was hardly something she was ever interested in. Over the course of her dates with Twigs, she had hoped that he would understand her lack of desire for marriage, but her suitor apparently was not one for hints. Unless he was purposely ignoring them. PK racked her brain, wishing to find a way out of the situation. She very badly did not want to be around so many goddamn eyes scanning her every move. Was that on purpose? PK didn't want to let down a crowd, but that was stupid. Who cared what they thought? She must have, because she stammered, not managing to utter any complete word or phrase. Twigs watched, statuesque, with an intensely focused gaze. PK looked hopelessly one more time for escape, for some way out of the situation, but she saw something to egg her on. Slightly out onto the merchant's pier, about 30 feet out, she saw Nana, looking rather manic. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if she just said yes. Oh, yeah. Also should go ahead and read the epilogue here. Two figures were heading toward their destination of Tau Village, a Charmander wearing a peculiar hat, and a Survivor with a small white cloth. From their attire, one would assume that they originated from Gametville, and that was so. These two were on a trek back to the village hand in hand. Well, together, at least, toting a couple of bags. Oh, are you sure you're fine with letting me occupy your Rescuers Guild, Michael? The Survivor asked. Yeah, of course, Opal. We're, together. We slept closely together in the week over at Mom's house, and, well, it's nice. I really like you, Mike looked down at the ground as he walked, his face particularly turning a red color that was more intense than his usual scales. You get a little silly with your you knows a lot, Mike. Also, that's you. I think that's meant to be a your. I like that. I like you a lot, too. It's just, I don't want to feel like a useless guest who's scrounging around. Lord knows, I did plenty of that with Donahue. Don't be silly, Opal. Donahue was fine with you. Plus, you kept beating yourself up over nothing. You make really cool jewelry, and I'm sure PK wouldn't bat an eye over these. Mike held up one of the bags he carried high above the ground. So, it'll be fine. Plus, I want your company. Your late-night hugs are, they feel nice, even if it hurts a lot. You still call those hugs? That's silly. You're very silly, Mike. Opal laughed as Mike's face began to turn even redder. Is that? Wait. Is that? Oi! It's been a long time! An unknown voice boomed out from the sky, startling the two of them in their trek, as Mike looked up and saw a familiar face. Barty, is that you? What are you doing here? Mike shouted up to the Cap Drifloon that was floating overhead. Yeah, who else would it be? I'm just surprised to see you going back to Tau Village, Mike. Now, are you gonna stay home this time? Mike was surprised to hear the word home used in such a context. Of course! I'm going home to Tao Village, and I'm staying there. So you're gonna give us a lift? Well, I'm too busy toting a napping passenger here to handle you two, but I'll go ahead of you guys to tell the news. So I'll catch you later. Bye! Barty shouted more and more as he floated off into the distance to ensure that the two of them heard his words at the expense of the now awake and furious passenger. Also, fun fact, Barty was created by the same person who created Fresnel. Yeah, that's a fact that I wanted to tell. Who was that, Michael? Opal turned to look at Mike with a puzzled look. Oh, that was Barty. He's the Tao Village flight transportation, so to say. Well, that's right. I have so much to tell you about the place. You're gonna love how friendly it is. Way better than Gammonville for sure. And Mike continued to talk as the two of them walked toward their destination in high spirits. Mike, you lived in Tao Village, and people did not treat you nicely there. Why are you telling her how friendly it is? Yeah. I think like it is can be inferred from the interview. The person who made Fresnel did not want their name on the thing, even if it does take a few searching to figure it out. Where was I at? As they passed the reconstructed Tao Ranch, Mike noticed how big it had become, and it was just a small sample of what was to come in his return. Then he noticed unfamiliar business in what appeared to be the edge of the rebuilt Tao Village. So many new buildings would prompt Mike to consider that they might have gone lost if it weren't for the iconic Kekleon merchant hut being noticed. They were back home, alright, but it was a brand new home for Opal, and Mike couldn't help but somewhat feel the same. Wow, it looks like a lot has happened since I left. I guess this means there's a lot of stuff to do now, eh, Opal? Yeah. What's wrong? Oh, you must be tired, huh? Well, let's see if there's any occupancy somewhere. Mike looked around, searching for any rebuilt houses that could offer temporary vacancies. I'm fine, really. But, Michael, didn't you say that your headquarters used to be a treehouse? Well, yeah, but... Well, look over there. Isn't that it? Opal pointed toward a giant tree with a wooden rampway that spiraled upward to a giant treehouse that was adorned with a peculiar lighthouse-looking ornament. Yeah, that'll be fine. What the keh? Mike was astonished to see it not only rebuilt, but more ravishing and luxurious as well. It was a godsend to have such an amazing building be your headquarters as well as your home, but Mike felt that it was all thanks to someone who would make him equally regret it. Wow, so she really outdid it this time. What else is she looking for? What are you talking about, Michael? Huh? Oh, this is definitely PK's work. But hey, doesn't it look great? Let's go inside at least so you can take a break. Oh, okay. Opal slithered to follow Mike as she approached the revived treehouse. Also, continuity here. Wasn't it implied that Mike did not know about this treehouse's existence as he entered the merchant hut? As Mike climbed up, he noticed familiar faces. Yes, many of the Rescuer Guild members he remembered were around and saw his face with a surprise. Well, if there's rescuers around, then this is definitely our treehouse, alright. Mike thought as the guild members rushed to speak with Mike. He was busy, but he had assured him that he definitely returned back to Tao Village with no intention to leave again, and they all left to spread the cheerful news. You're awfully popular, Michael, Opal giggled. Ah, well, you know, I guess I shouldn't have really taken my absence for granted. Well, let's go! Mike walked on ahead and opened the door to let himself and Opal into the headquarters. It was fantastic, much bigger than what he and Chill were used to, and with more furnishings to boot. Wow, this must have cost a lot, huh? Mike looked around the inside the treehouse so he could familiarize himself with his new settings, but then he realized he was forgetting something. Oh, Opal, you should take a rest on that, weird-looking chair. Oh, Michael, that's a Chaise lounge. Even I know that. I think that's a Chase lounge. I don't know. This word sounds French to me. Opal laid the bag hanging from her tail blade hilt to rest and coil herself up on top of the red futon. God, that was a sentence hard say. Ah, this feels great after walking for 2 days. My body's so sore. As if you can walk without legs. Mike placed the other 2 bags he had carried all this way right next to the bag Opal held. Oh, sorry Michael, but when everyone says walk, you kind of pick that up. Ah, yeah, you don't see much snakes around. Well, I'm gonna go look if I can see if the others are around. Be right back. Mike walked off into various rooms of the treehouse to find anyone. In his search, he discovered that the new treehouse contained a dining room, paired with a rudimentary kitchen, a bathing room, and various rooms that were equipped with a standard bed and desk, possibly reserved for guests or clients. But as he delved further and further, he started smelling a familiar scent. Maple? Yeah, that's her, but yeah. It was disgustingly more pungent than what Maple naturally exuded in her adorable stature, which meant that she must have sprayed something or someone, and if she did so, then she was in a terrible mood. Mike felt like he had to go where the awful smell became stronger and stronger, even if it began to give him a headache. He had to go see what's wrong with her. Finally, he arrived at the door where the source of Maple's foul aura was being housed and opened it without knocking. Maple, are you here? Are you okay? Maple peeked up. What? Oh, it's you. Yeah, it's me. Ah, how are you doing? You stink. Something bad happened? Duh. She furrowed her brow. Lots of bad things have happened since you've been gone? Like, Rhodes is a really big jerk, and Sandy's being weird, and I don't know why you're even asking. If you cared, you wouldn't have left anyway. Ugh, really? Well, Mike placed a claw behind his shoulders and scratched as he looked at Maple. I know, it's my bad, and I'm sorry too, but I had a lot of trouble on my mind and I had to go talk to Mom. Yeah, right, I'm sure. She rolled her eyes and turned away from him. Yeah, Maple, you're one to talk. God, Maple sounds like DW sometimes. Ugh, come on, Maple. Mike looked up to the ceiling. Look, it's fine. It'll all be fine now. I'm back on my feet, and I'm ready to go make amends, too. Okay, how about we start with you first? Obviously, you did something to Sandy and Rose, and let's go apologize to them. Mike edged closer to Maple. Don't you touch me! She shrieked. I don't want to talk to either of them, or you for that matter. Fine, I get it. You're really mad. Okay, I'll leave you be for the moment, but when I come back, we're bathing. Sorry, that just stunned me. Hey, at least I've got something of yours that Mom wanted me to give you. I don't care about that stupid toy, and you can't make me do anything, at all. Maple promptly got up and ran off to another section of the treehouse. Hiding from Mike was a good pastime when she was particularly angry at the world. Well, so much for that. Shoot, I forgot to ask her if she's seen Fernell around anywhere. Oh well, maybe later tonight. After I cook her some pancakes, she'll soften up. But now I have to deal with Sandy and Maple. What a bother. Mike sighed loudly and walked back to where Opal was. She was all coiled up on the futon still, but with her eyes closed. Opal, I found Maple, but she's a little moody at the moment, so I can't really introduce you to her at the moment. Sorry. Opal opened her eyes and yawned. Sorry, I'm so tired from that walk. I think I want a nap for a bit anyways. Ah, that's fine. Sorry for waking you, Opal. Mike walked up to the bags and opened them up, checking its contents. Yeah, this is the one. Okay. He closed it up and lifted it up with him. Is it time, Michael? She knew what Mike was about to do. After all, he had planned to go to this PK to introduce her work and get her situated to do business, but she had other means in plan. Mike, you can give them to her. You should pay off the debt this treehouse has, so it's rightfully yours. Mike was stunned at what Opal just said. What? I was only going to show her, but... Shh. Michael, it's alright. You earned those, remember? It's payment for the excavation job. Shh. It's... Oops. Opal's lisp happened yet again, an error she tried to re-enunciate herself. It's okay, Michael. I really don't mind. Thanks, Opal. Mike turned around and took one step until... Do be truthful to PK, including your feelings as well. Mike started in the steps and almost tripped after hearing that. Oh, what?
Look, it's pretty easy to tell you have feelings for PK as well, but don't let me get in the way of that. I'd die if I was an actual cause of that. So don't worry about me, really. I'm not jealous. In fact, it's cute.
This is definitely Queeper catering. Those words were like daggers digging themselves into his heart. He couldn't believe Opal could be such a merciful murderer. They were actual daggers, that is. But the merciful status still held true. He was entirely grateful for Opal's position in this matter. I will. I'll be back, okay? And we'll go out and have dinner, too, with Fennell and Maple, to celebrate, because I'm not gonna lose this one. Opal could only giggle at Mike's sudden burst of confidence.
That's good. I'm starving. Plus, if we could have that time together, tonight we can...
Mike's heart skipped a beat. He very well knew what Opal was insinuating, and he was overjoyed to hear that. Yeah, okay, I'm all fired up. I'm gonna go now. Bye! Mike continued with a dash toward the doors and left. Opal sighed as she was dead on with Mike once more.
He's so easy to get. Oh well, I could use the excitement tonight as well.
Opal shut her eyes and went back to rest for the night's meal and tango. Mike walked his way toward the familiar Kecleon-themed hut with thoughts about the night. As he did, he could hear the murmuring of the many Tower Village residents as they saw him. He kept his focus on them as he walked, for far too long, though, as he bumped into somebody who is well endowed. Oof. Aye, is that Malt? Mike noticed the brown-colored melting that he had accidentally assaulted. It was hard not to mistake such a rare sight for someone else. Why are you here? I work here. You've been gone a while, huh? You work here now? That's great. I didn't know you were into this sort of stuff. Well, I need to hurry back to my rescuing duty, so I need to know where PK is. Do you know? Oh, yeah, PK. She's in her office, but, do you really need to see her? I mean, she's kind of busy lately, and when it's not about work, she's prone to, well, you know. Malt had an upset expression plastered across his face, that was as easy to notice. Wait, Malt had an upset expression plastered across his face that was as easy to notice the brown on his body. Well, I'm a customer, so she'll make time for me. Mike walked past Malt and turned around to walk backwards for a bit in order to say, I think that's Mike speaking. Thanks. I hope you do okay. Wait, yeah. And with that, he went inside the hut and straight to the door that had office emblazoned on it. This was it. He had to do it, but he could feel his tail flame, confidence, and practically everything else of him shrink while he was in front of the door. Knock knock, as his knuckled claw beat on the door. Knock knock, as his knuckled claw beat on the door. And it opened to reveal a rather expectant Kecleon whose facial expression shifted into a multitude of colors, until it finally settled on black disappointment. Whoa, that was a neat little color show for a welcome back, huh? What? You're not. What are you doing here? What do you want? PK exclaimed. Mike sighed upon hearing that. Yeah, still the same? PK, why are you still black? Are you sick? God damn it, Mike. PK glared into his eyes with such vigor that it felt like she was burning her latent anger into his soul. I'm fine, thanks. Did you have business here or not? There's about a million things I could be doing and would rather be doing besides talking to you. But I was what went in Mike's mind before he switched rails to actual speech as he pulled the bag closer to his chest. Hey, that's not nice. You should treat me better than that because I'm at least a customer with a lot of money right here, so let's make a deal or two. PK took a good glimpse at his bag and then made a decision that Mike believed was businesslike. A lot of money, huh? What type of business are you trying to pull off then? Okay, that was the first step, and now the second step. Well, this is pretty heavy, so will you let me in your office? Fine. PK stepped closer to Mike. But let me take a peek first. Gotta make sure you're not wasting my time. Time's money and all that jazz. And yes, this is a repeat from Reprieve, but I think it's unique enough for me to still reread it. Yes, the second step. Good. Okay, look at this. He reached into the bag and pulled out a large and fantastic emerald from it. How's that for money? Think I can have an audience with... Think I can have an audience with now, Your Majesty? That's a good one. Ought to use that line some more. She stared at the large emerald with a rather calm expression. Alright, looks real enough. I'll have to check them up close for myself, too. Now, what exactly are you hoping to
Goodbye with all those. She walked into her office. Also, I did not pass this over, but this is two different quotation marks. This is supposed to imply that this is this is like a thought. But one, it's not on a different line. Two, it's not. There's nothing that made it different from the first line. I would have at least put italics on this specific line, so that it would stand out as like, oh, this is Mike thinking to himself. Mike had trailed behind her with disappointment in his head as he wondered if that emerald was a bad first impression. He looked for somewhere to sit at to be customary and found small wooden chairs for him to situate himself. Not bad, but he had to step up his game now. Okay, here, look at all these. Mike pulled out more and more gems from the bag, with a color choice that avoided green. That was the unlucky color already set in his mind. They were not all smooth like the emerald, but at least he placed them in a range for PK to feast her eyes on. Sorry these are so rough. Me and Opal couldn't really cut all of these so fancily, but wait until you see your work. Yeah. Opal? Opal, she... Mike couldn't help but try to laugh to cover up his inner conflict. That's right. I never considered what Pika would actually think about Opal. Okay, so now we're switching points of view now. PK seemed to notice that he actually liked Opal, and she seemed to become mad at that fact. Mike became nervous. Did I blow it already? Oh, I see. Whatever. Are you going to buy something, or are you just messing with me? Mike felt like he was losing the deal already, but she mentioned the word buy, so it was still salvageable, right? Sorry. Okay, look. First off, I want to say that I brought Opal with me from Gamberville to take up residence with me in Tau Village. Thing is, I know that residence isn't really ours, and it's just on loan from you. Well, I promised to return victorious, so... First, the deal is this. Mike emptied the bag of all his gems on top of PK's table. All this to pay off the treehouse. Yeah, how's that? God, this is such a string of... This is such a string of dialogue, and someone put it way too confusingly. Like, I can tell that this is dialogue, thoughts, dialogue again, dialogue, and then somehow this is thoughts, but not dialogue thoughts, but more of like narrator thoughts. It's so fucking confusing. PK seemed to get all wide-eyed, but she maintained a straight face as the silence brooded. Then she tapped her claws along the desk as she looked at the wall for a bit. Yeah, some part of me wondered if the ending to Reprieve was added a bit later. Or maybe Glip wanted to make it so that this was the epilogue, so the rescuers, so anyone who had OCs in the Rescuers Guild could see that, hey, the Rescuers Guild is doing fine, and yeah, I don't know, it's a mess. And here it is, the kiss, drawn a second time actually. Yeah, I think at first I thought, well, wait, are they just reusing images? But then I looked over, compared this image to. Where is it? No, it was not Reprieve. What was it? I think it was Spiritual Malaise? No. Fuck. What was... I could have... I could have sworn... No, not this. What was that one story that we read that had that? Because it wasn't this. It was something else. No, it wasn't that. Wait, no, it couldn't be on Mission 5. The dates, that's what it was! It was the dates. That's right. So yeah. Let me check. Okay, artwork by Purple Kecleon. Get out of here, Reprieve. Nobody likes you. And this could only be assumed to be... Yep, there's Glip's signature down there. So Glip really did decide to draw this twice. What gave you the impression that'd be enough? Have you taken a good look at the treehouse anyway? Have you seen all its furnishings? Do you even know how labor intensive it was? Did you even see the lighthouse on top? Do you even know how expensive that was to install? Blow after blow was striking down on Mike at his core as PK went on and on. What? Well? That can't be. Here, you didn't see everything here. Look at these. Mike pointed his claw to a specific gem on the table. Are you familiar with the utility rocks? How about this? Seen a charge stone before? I'm familiar with all manners of stones, idiot. But do you have any idea how hard it was to build on that tree? It got really smashed up during, you know. I'm afraid these just won't cut it. PK turned away, and Mike knew he had already wounded her with the remembrance of sorbet. Hang on, my throat is feeling... And yeah, I guess that would be right. Because this is sort of messy and feels a bit jagged. Like PK was really feeling, oh shit. And then you have Mike feeling like this is, I don't know how to put it into words. I just know how to put it into noises. Great, I really blew it. I guess it's time for the trump card. Mike sighed as he walked up to PK and placed his claw on her shoulder. I guess I got too ahead of myself again. I didn't think this would be enough. I'm sorry, but I'll do whatever you want. I mean, yeah, anything. What do you want? Anything? Do you mean that, Mikey boy? Yep, it's working, just as I expected. I was looking forward to having the night with Opal. I guess. Even that, if that's what you're asking. Opal, I guess she'd be okay with it too. Anything for the rescuers, you know. PK finally started laughing, almost heinously. This was it. Her goal had arrived, and her haggle had come to fruition. What? PK, this is really scary. Is there really more to you than that? PK turned around to face Mike with a maniacal look that knocked him off his feet onto the ground. And then, after all the build-up, she dealt her fatal blow. A smile. You dumbass! Fresnel already paid for the whole thing out of his own pocket! You don't owe me anything but the insurance each month. And even then, he's paid a year in advance, so you don't even have to worry about your forgetfulness for a while. Mike was flabbergasted. Nothing could really formulate in his mind. All that tension. Is that so? Yep, turns out you did waste my time after all, huh? Now get your sorry ass out of here. Just then, a thought sparked in Mike's mind. He never thought of doing this, but he just had to try it. No. Excuse me? I can't. This has been in my heart. PK was baffled, as she should have been. What? Stop babbling! I meant this! Mike stepped forward and grabbed PK by the arms, initiating what seemed to be a deep kiss in the way the two could actually execute. PK seemed to feel entirely frozen in what the scant few seconds felt like an eternity. And so did Mike. In fact, Mike's heart felt like it was going to burst from fulfilling what it had desired him to do, and then began conveying the thoughts to take the step even further. Mike bought into the false claims his heart was whispering to him, and thought that maybe now would be the best time to, well, be shoved away from PK by her own hands. Darn. What the hell, Mike? Get out of here! PK shoved him right out of her office, and then slammed the door shut. Mike couldn't believe what he had done, but his blood was ignited from the act that he couldn't care less if he... Oh, the gems were left in her office. Another ruse by PK that he couldn't help but laugh at. That was worth all those gems. You can keep them. PK then opened the door in response to his shout and dropped the bag full of gems on the ground beside him. In that split second, his mind immediately connected the pattern of what was to ensue. And before the final pact of PK's 3-second act could play out, he had responded, wait! Mike stuck his foot to where the door would close, and had his foot smashed in order to prevent its complete closure. Ow! What do you want? She yelled, while sporting a color similar to him. Look! Michael haplessly tossed a handful of gems and the precious gift that Syrup entrusted him to give to PK. Opal does more than just gems. She's an expert jeweler, too. Keep those and show it to Shroomsworth, too. I'm sure you can see business from Opal more than a mile away. Now drink. It's for you to keep. But if you don't like it, I guess you could give it to him, too, if he fancies a hot tea. PK reverted back to her newly standardized black color. Yeah, no, that won't be happening. Thanks anyway, but... PK looked around anxiously. Just stop it. I'm really sick and tired of people making fun of me. Just tired of it. Those words stung Mike as he felt he unexpectedly hurt her on a personal level, and jerked his swelling foot away from the door, leaving her to close it and then lock it. Yeah, I forgot if they were aware that they were an item too. Maybe? Also, yeah, Mike is definitely a dumbass. And not the charming kind of dumbass either. Yeah, I would say that too. They didn't care about them being a couple until Glip was like, hey, look at the sex! Anyway, I want to round out this with reading the events. Oh god, no! No, right, I forgot Event 6 Suckers is here. So, you know what, I think I'll leave it here tonight. We'll finish off Mission 6 and start off Mission 7 tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm sure the last thing anyone wanted to care about in Tau Village was the fact that Shroomsworth was banging PK. And yeah, it is past 11. I don't want to make it to 12 a.m. again by trying to finish off of Mission 6. So yeah, thank you all for coming out to here. I did not think the break this time would be AI related. And yeah, we're almost out of Mission 6. We're almost there. Good night. See y'all tomorrow. Bleh.